really is the difference.
It is history in the making. We are into the final hour of the 28th annual SunBank 24 at Daytona. And this 12-cylinder Jaguar is currently leading. It is Jan Lammers of Holland at the controls of the car as we move to the final portion of this. Jaguar currently is running in first and second position. Porsche relegated to third and fourth. And there is a GTO car, one of the Jack Roush Fords, currently being shown fifth overall on the field. It is a record-breaking pace at which they're running. Some 735 laps have been completed. That's 2,616 miles, about the distance from Daytona Beach to West Covina, California, since 3:30 yesterday afternoon, and they still have some distance to go. Hello, everyone. I'm Ken Squire, and along with me again today is Bill Adam, who started this race, and that was a short day for you.
It unfortunately was far too short, but enjoyable for the first hour.
And the major story is these incredible Jaguars and the Fords and GTO. The stock blocks have taken over. They're really ripping this field apart.
It's amazing. You expect that this race, since it is the hardest one of the season, the most demanding of all, you would win it and increase the records by new technology, but they've all fallen back on the proven product, the old V12 Jaguars, the big Ford engine.
Let's go to Dave Despain, standing by at the STP Pit Center.
Thank you, Ken. The bad news is this race is about as close as the Super Bowl. The good news is there are 4 classes out there. There ought to be a good race somewhere. The bad news is all 4 races are about as close as the Super Bowl. I want to show you some results. Lammers and Brundle are blowing away the field. The Nissan has long since disappeared. I'll tell you a lot more about that as we take a look on at the GT Light class. These are the miniature prototypes. Late word that Mike Greenfield and Jack Grooms are actually driving that lead car. Jelnick owns the car and will not drive. We thought he might finish it up today. We'll go on to the sedan classes here and take a look at an absolute blowout. The story here is not so much, I don't think, the Jack Roush cars, but this kid, Robbie Gordon. What a story we're going to tell you about him today. And in the U class, the car, here is the story. That car belongs to the guy. We'll get into that a little later. Right now, Peter Urea is leading that class, but the car is indeed story. That's what's nice about this race. Forget the interval on the racetrack. The stories are all over this place. Let's get one of them now from pit reporter Bob Barshall. Obviously, with Bob Marsh's equipment, 24 hours of long grind for the Gear 2. Let's go as an alternative to Chris Economaki. Chris?
Thank you very much, David. I'm in the Ford pit, Jack Roush Ford. 5 times his cars have won this 24-hour race in the GTO category. They're going for a record 6th triumph. And one of the reasons he's been so successful is not only the car preparation, but equipment brought here to stand by for any exigency that might arise. Rear ends, transmissions, differentials, oil coolers, steering mechanism. He's ready for anything that might break. But today, none of this stuff broke. His requirements have been human. One of his drivers, Matt Jones, got sand under his contact lenses. Had trouble. Another of his drivers, Calvin Fish, because the seat for his car was fitted for another driver, he got a Charlie horse, and during a nap he sat up and bumped his head on the roof of the bunk. Now he's got a headache, so they had to turn to Scott Pruitt, standing by an IndyCar driver who was registered in a prototype here, never got to race because his car went out of the race early. They brought him down here. He just finished a 1.5-hour stint. So for all this equipment here, none of that was needed. What they wanted was more body. Ken?
Well, Chris, the story is the same in the Jaguars. Up in front, we're going to get to Bob Marshall and hopefully get that story. The 2 lead cars are in the same lap after 24 hours, and they are both the 12-cylinder Jags. And we're seeing history here. No car has ever won this race more than twice, with the exception of Porsche, which has won it 17 times. You can go back through the book. You'll find Ferrari. You'll find Ford. You'll find Corvette, BMW. But you won't find a 2-time winner except for Porsche. And today, that looks like it's going to change as these V12 Jaguars continue to devour this field. They have a 9-lap advantage over the Bruce Levin car number 86, which is shown in third. Bruce Levin back in the Northwest watching today. He's ailing. Hope he's feeling better. His team has done an outstanding job here thus far, maintaining third spot. 61 continues to be your leader. And it's Davy Jones, the United States, has just stepped out of the car. Jan Lammers of Holland is back at the controls. Andy Wallace, the new sensation from Great Britain in the Formula 2 racing, he is in the third driver on that car. Now, the second Jaguar is Bryce Cobb from out in Evergreen, Colorado. Right now, Martin Brundle, the great Formula One driver, is at the controls, and with them comes the Danish driver, Nielsen. Those two Jags in the lead laps. They get ready to stack them up. And we will be back, give you some highlights from how we got to this point in the race, give you all the action in just a few moments. Watching one of the Jack Roush cars, number 15, continuing to lead this field. And right now the story is Robbie Gordon, the youngster, 21 years old. You have not heard about him before unless you followed off-road racing in America. You're going to hear a lot about this guy in time to come. Discovery of Lee Morse from Ford. Found him out in the desert. They took him to Sebring just to get a little experience. We're so impressed. They put him in this car, and he has been flawless. Just super easy all evening, all day in this SunBank 24. Now let's go to Bob Barsha.
Okay, thanks everyone, and pardon my silence a little earlier. Here in the Jaguar pit, there is no need for silence. They are absolutely ecstatic, and they stand at the verge of history. Behind me on the timing stand, team manager Tony Dow in the white hat sits with chairman John Egan of Jaguar, and he is bringing his company, as I said, to the edge of history. In the previous 27 runnings of this race, no manufacturer had ever won more than once, except mighty Porsche with 17 victories. Now, today, Jaguar has a very good chance indeed of making it 2 out of 3. But it has not been easy. Their leading car, the number 61 machine, needed a transfusion of coolant this morning to overcome an overheating condition, while the 60 car, the car that brought Jaguar its first victory in this race 2 years ago, is running with driver trouble. Bryce Cobb, young American, has suffered dehydration, will miss a couple of stints, while John Nielsen, partnering Martin Brundle in that car, burned his left hand when he spilled coffee on it yesterday morning.
First time since 1967 that a factory team, we've had independent entries fill out the top 2, top 3. The first time a factory team is looking like they're going to come across 1 and 2. Here you see the number 61 car. Again, that is Lammers, and as it was in '88, they're back controlling this race with less than an hour to go. 740 laps, 2,634 miles, at an average speed of 2 miles per hour, quicker than ever before. 113 mile an hour average being run. We've had about 1 hour under caution. As to how some of that caution came about, let's review how we came to where we are right now. And here's our first report on the beginning of the race from Dave Despay.
This annual battle of the great sports car builders and their drivers began under sunny skies and in front of one of the largest crowds in the history of the event. Small field in comparison to past years, and the hammering that is endurance racing began taking its toll immediately. The Porsches jumped out front. Bob Wallach challenged here by Pescarola of France, Henry on the move and all the way to the front. But Porsche's problems started soon thereafter. Rob Dyson parked his rather expensive new 962 backwards on the fence.
I understand the sticker on that thing is $840,000. No. What is it?
A little less. And it didn't cost them quite that much when they spun out the lead Porsche. Pescarola got it turned around sideways. The other Porsche, Bob Wallach, got involved with a tangle with another car and banged up the rear end. By the time they got out of the pit, this car had to have a new wing and a new rear wheel. But the other Porsche, the Pescarola car, suspension is kaput. The engine went shortly thereafter, and it was the Jaguars who suddenly seemed to be the team to beat at Daytona. They're so strong with their formation running up front. But there was definitely a challenge to these cars, which won the race 2 years ago, and that challenge came from Nissan. Here's the team that won the race a year ago. That's Jim Busby. He switched from Porsche to Nissan. He carried our in-car camera and gave us another taste of what the action's really like out there, especially in the smaller classes. You're a GTO driver in the Momo car. You want to pass the big guy? Well, unfortunately, you got her turned around backwards on the racetrack. And so the Nissan marched on, but here's the big problem for the front-running or factory Nissan team. A pit fire retired their 84 car. They wanted that to be their race car. So they turned their attention to number 83. It would be the focus of the electromotive effort as its team car went behind the wall. And this car, with now all the drivers at hand, proved to be an effective challenge for the Jaguar. It was a little short on straightaway speed, but not through the infield. Problems for the surprise GTO leading Mazda. The windshield collapsed, the engine went not long thereafter. And for the GT Light winner of a year ago, another problem.
We had a different type engine for this race that was newer hadn't really been tried, and I guess it's not working as well as we anticipated it would. So we'll change it. Hopefully we'll be back in the race in an hour or so.
And to round out the saga of problems for front runners, this is the GTU class champion, Bob Leitzinger. He backed his car into the wall and eventually retired. As dust fell at Daytona International Speedway, the Jaguar and Nissan teams had to be wondering, how fast should we run? The competition faltering all around them. The pace of the race became the question that had to be answered as this race roared into the night.
And we are back with you live here at Daytona, and you're watching one of those Roush automobiles, one of the Ford products, as we take a look at the GTO rundown. This is the over 2-liter, the big bore American cars for the most part, dominated for the last 5 years by Jack Roush. Looks like they may be ready to do it again, 6 in a row. That'll change some, that Daytona luck, when Roush comes in here with Mark Martin and tries to win the Daytona 500 in a couple of weeks. They're 72 laps down to the prototype in this 24-hour race with this 366 cubic inch power plant, 6-liter machine, now up on the east end of the Speedway in the 31-degree banking. We are running on the 3.56-mile road course here at Daytona, and there you see the Roush cars beginning to pull together to have a factory finish at the end of this for the Ford hopes. We'll be back with more and give you some more of the highlights of what we've seen the past 23 hours following these messages. For history here at the Daytona International Speedway, as you look at the congregation just above the start-finish line, most of the crowd in the infield. We just were talking about how the Ford hopes this Mercury Cougar would come across 1 and 2 were being put together, and look what's happened. Live, Scott Pruitt is out of the race. Second place, GTO car. That's just how quickly circumstances can change in these 24-hour endurance contests. Scott Pruitt is down. He was running in second spot at the time. Let's go to the STP Pit Center and Dave Despain.
Ken, we've been coming down here almost 10 years now to cover this race. Every year it's so much different. Every year it's exciting and interesting for different reasons. This year could very well be special. Want to show you the True Value Leader of the Pack Award. We give away money when we come down here, and I mean that's serious fun. 6, 12, and 18-hour leaders get $500. Leader in 6 hours was Jan Lammers of the Jaguar. Leader at 12 hours, Jan Lammers of the Jaguar. Leader at 18 hours, Jan Lammers of the Jaguar. Never since we've come here has anybody swept all 3 of the hourly awards and then won the race. And if he does that, I get to give away another 1,000 of the producer's dollars. I'm looking forward to it, Kenley. We'll be back with that at the end of the race.
And Lammers is at the controls at the present time in that machine out in front with car number 61. The 60 car, that second V12, stays right there. The guy who had the fastest lap on this track is standing right beside me, our analyst Bill Adam. You did it for the Corvette a few years ago.
That's right, the Rick Hendricks Corvette.
And Jan Lammers has broken your mark by a considerable margin out here.
Didn't just break it, he kicked it into oblivion.
He went from your old mark was what, 126, and he's kicked it up to 138 miles an hour for a lap, 129 miles per hour.
That's
for
right.
a lap in the race.
And did that in the dark, which is even more impressive. You don't have the vision that you would like to have. There's never such a thing as too much light for you. And for him to do that in the middle of the night is really an incredible feat.
Trying to repeat. Winners in 1988. Jaguar out in front. The other single-time winners, BMW in 76, Chevrolet in 69, Ferrari back in 67, and Ford in 66.
You know, quite frankly, it's not too much of a surprise because Jaguar have been treating this very, very seriously and been down here twice before testing for this particular race. The fact they're using the V12 over their turbo V6 shows that they're very serious to win this. They want to make it 2 in a row.
Let's go to Bob Barger.
Okay, Ken and Bill, we've talked about the Jaguar and the factory Ford effort and all those big buck sort of teams. I want to show you the other end of the 24 hours of Daytona. This gentleman is Hoyt Overbaugh. His car, shared with Don Arpin, Mark Montgomery, Guy Church, and Del Taylor, is 500 laps, 1,600 miles behind the leader. Hoyt, you've changed the gearbox, you've fixed the engine, you've fixed everything on this car. You guys are still out there chugging around. Why?
Well, I think there's a real simple answer to that, and if you're ever going to win this race, you've got to come prepared to run the whole 24 hours. So you just have to do it.
And do what they have. Their name won't be on the Rolex trophy at the finish, but they too are winners here at Daytona.
That's part of the fun and the spirit of this competition.
It is, and it's a case that you never know. Here, we just saw a few moments ago Scott Pruitt standing beside one of those Roush cars that are normally unbreakable. It did break, so Hoyt keep your hopes up.
Taking a look at the GTP standings. These are the big prototypes, those amazing cars, speeds capable of over 200 miles an hour. They've been running about 190 through the night, the fastest portion of the course, but they've toned them down considerably. They were running in the 150s when last we checked in. I think the instructions are out to Jaguar to back it up a little, bridle their enthusiasm, and bring these cars home.
I think it was something that was necessary because, as Bob made mention, that they did suffer some sort of heating problems just a short while ago. And so you drop the rev, maybe 500 or 800 RPM, a little lower than you really want to run. So hopefully it keeps those engine temperatures down. When you do that, you gain an extra value that you get a little more fuel mileage as well. So it all benefits the car.
Overall standings being shown to you now as we continue to follow the problems and the glorious moments of all of these teams here for the 24 hours in the SunBank race, 28th annual get-together. And Jaguar looks like they're going to put their name up in lights before this one's over big time on those scoreboards in the infield.
This may look the same as what we saw last year running in the 24-hour race, but it actually is a fairly new car, and it's new in another respect as well. That no longer are they on Dunlop tires. They're very sharp viewers will notice that they're now on Goodyears, and they're very happy about this switch.
And they're going for 3 in a row. They won the last 2 races of the 1989 season. What a way to kick off 1990 in the IMSA Camel Series.
Well, it gives hope to a lot of people as well. It shows that the Nissan, which appears invulnerable, actually can break sometimes. Maybe everybody's hoping for a season of 24-hour races.
Some people, I don't know for which class, taking an extra little bit of superstition there and crossing their fingers, hoping they're going to bring one home today. 61 stays in front, and remember that the Jags have a 9-lap advantage over the first of the Porsche 962s, which hasn't been their day at all.
Really incredible. There were 10 962s that were entered, and through a series of misfortunes, there really is only one that's still running very strongly. That's the 86 car.
And there's the second Jaguar on pit road. Car number 60 is in, and the cooling water, cooling substances coming out of that car. They've had some problems there before, trying to get it rectified, get that car back in the race. We'll be back with more from the SunBank 24 at Daytona in a moment. There are 4 classes in competition, along with those gigantic prototype cars, the big GTO, the Camel Light series. While there's the GTU, the under 2-liter cars, and here's the leader in that category. It continues to be number 71, Peter Uria's car. Stays up in front. A Mazda RX-7 is leading a Porsche 911 in this class. It's one of the stalwarts of IMSA racing. Where you begin is where you learn. And for many, it's just a great place to go competing. And in the SunBank 24, they also become sort of moving obstacles. You notice how he's traveling along maybe 120, and Bill Adams used to pulling up on him about 190. It gets real interesting out here sometimes.
Except I'll never hear the end of it because he's a friend of mine. He'll say, "I beat you, Bill."
Well, one of the serious contenders to win this event was the gentleman who won the IMSA championship in GTU just 1 year ago. He put together a terrific season, and he was honored just 1 day ago.
Thank you, Ken. It's a pleasure to be here today on behalf of the Air Force Reserve, its Commanding General, Major General Roger P. Scheer, to present this beautiful Golden Falcon to this week's recipient of the Commander's Performance Award, Mr. Bob Lightzinger. The Commander's Performance Award is given to those individuals who give of their time and efforts on behalf of the Air Force Reserve, their sport, and their community. Mr. Bob Lightzinger is a winner of the 1989 IMSA GTU Championship, is a family man, and we respect his team orientation. It's a pleasure for me to present this award to Mr. Bob Lightzinger.
Thank you very much, Lieutenant Colonel Hall. Thank you. I'd like to accept this on behalf of the Lightzinger Racing team, who very much like the Air Force. You have to have a good team in order to succeed. Thank you very much.
His team is a family team. Colonel Hall making the award, Director of Advertising. We continue to watch number 71 here for just a moment as it circulates in GTU competition. Here's Chris Economac.
Factory team to the keynote to success in racing. Take a look at what Mazda brought to Daytona. Perhaps a $1 million effort. 4 factory cars, all painted alike. Highly skilled professional drivers. Highly paid men who do nothing but race for a living. And where are they? 2 are gone and 2 are running, but not well. And who are the stars for Mazda this year? These from this pit. Here are the drivers, Bob Dodson, Rusty Scott, and Jim Pace. Amateurs, weekend racers. Their car, a 5-year-old RX-7 that has won this race 4 times and looking for the 5th victory in GTU. It's really a remarkable effort for these fellas. In the car, the team owner, Peter Ure, he's a pacemaker salesman, hoping to get enough money to pay some of the bills. Yeah?
Thanks, Chris. Great report. There's some enthusiasm down in that GTU class. Something for everyone to cheer for.
Well, it's going to be a good one for them, but it has to be some sort of a mixed feeling for Peter because he has been a long-time Porsche supporter and has run 911s in this race, I think, since God invented dirt. But here he is. He's finally going to win the GTU classification and in a Mazda.
And meanwhile, up in front, car number 61 continues to show the way. It's John Lammers back here as he was in 1988, commanding this race. And right behind him, you see the GTO leader pulling up as well. The car number 15 that is currently being driven by this new youngster, Robbie Gordon. Let's take a look at more of the action as to how it came to be, this 24 hours of Daytona, where we are now. And we have another report filed for you as to where we were just after dark last night. That report coming up right now from Mike Joy.
As night fell, traffic on the racetrack not as bad as this in the infield. Derek Bell, 5-time winner of the 24 Hours at Le Mans and 3-time winner here. In his storied 20-year career, had never crashed out of an auto race until 9:30 p.m. last night.
Suddenly just collapsed at the right rear, and then he just flew up in the air, and I just remember sailing through the air. It was an incredible ride, and then, I don't know, it just came down so quietly on the road, and just skidded on and on and on and on and on down the road. And as I was going along, I realized I was just sliding, and I just didn't seem to hit anything. So I put the fire extinguisher on because I'm just terrified of fire, and I thought, well, I ain't going to stick my hands out anywhere because I don't want to get, because I have to stop. And then I realized the engine was still running, and I was upside down, so I switched the engine off. And then as I said, I got the fire extinguisher button, so I started to get soaked in fuel, and I then started to pass out because there's fumes. Like, well, any minute, you know, they'll just come and somebody will come, and I seem to lay there for an eternity looking up the road and just hearing cars going by and nobody coming for me. It's quite unbelievable. And then next thing I passed out, and I remember having, like, you know, you have like a nightmare. Sometimes you have a bad dream about having an accident, and then you wake up. I thought, maybe I'm having a dream. And it wasn't a dream. And the next thing I could hear voices, and I started to shout, call for people, and they called for me, and I told them, hurry up. And then they pulled me out.
Bell sustained only a stiff neck and a fat lip. A couple of pit miscues for Nissan with a sticking door latch, but Jeff Brabham and Derek Daly managed to keep that car on the lead lap, despite a torrid pace set by the 2 V12 Jaguars of Davy Jones and Bryce Cobb. In GTO number 15, the Roush Racing Mercury Cougar held the lead through this part of the night, and in Camel Lights on the right side of your screen, the number 42 Porsche led. A marathon 3.5-hour drive by defending Lights winner Tom Hessert brought his car from 6th to 1st.
This morning we had a coolant problem that ended up being an engine problem after the coolant, and we ended up changing the motor right at the last minute, pulled out the last one out the grid, and right now we're in the lead.
Back with you once again, watching the car number 61 that continues to lead, and let's take a look at Camel Light. These are the smaller engine prototype machines. This is the leader, the Frank Jelinek car, and it's currently being driven by John Grooms of Elliott, Maine. His co-driver is young Mike Greenfield, who won his first ARS race back at Pocono. A good driver. His dad, of course, a long time ago. And here we see the Camel Light standings. As you watch car number 36 come back to the start-finish line area, the 17-degree banking here, the tri-oval before cutting to what they call turn number 1 of this 3.56 brake.
We notice on this car that it shows there that it's a modest motor. This has been an extremely successful engine meeting for the Camel Light because Jim Downing was multiple-time champion in the class and always with Mazda. Very, very good engine for this. And it makes it that much more difficult for the Buicks and Pontiacs to really compete against it with that sort of reliability.
To the STP Pit Center in Davis.
It interests me, Ken, that this race started with a short field and with something else new. 8 additional points for every position among the finishers toward the Camel GT Championship. Yes, it is the biggest 24-hour race in the world this year because of all the clouds surrounding the Le Mans affair. So in addition to prestige, there's a shot at that Camel Championship. The last 2 years, Nissan has beaten Jaguar, and 88, of course, Jaguar won this race and could not take the title. So what they hope to do is win this race, sweep the record book completely, start the decade of the 90s with another 24-hour victory, and then, perhaps most importantly, go on to that championship. So there's a lot more at stake here than just one race victory. A lot at stake out on pit road yet as these final minutes wind down. Let's go to Chris Conrad.
Well, for 24 hours, 15 prototypes started. There are only 5 left. Both Nissans are gone. The Toyota is gone. A handful of Porsches are gone. And many crew members are gone, much like this gentleman here, whose car was withdrawn some while ago, and he couldn't wait to get his nap. Here he is, sound asleep, waiting for the checkered flag to wave so he can get up to the hall. Yeah.
There's a lot of that going on right now, too. After 23 hours, 23 and a half hours have been completed in this 24-hour contest. Again, the Jaguars are running first and second. This is only their 3rd attempt at the SunBank 24. They won it the first time out in '88. Then they were down last year. Now they're back on top with cars still running in first and second position. Let's recap more of the action through the night. As the night wore on here, attrition was beginning to take its toll. Several top teams found themselves out of contention, while others found the going surprisingly good. Bob Marshall.
Toyota, a would-be challenger in the prototype class, battled a weight disadvantage going into the race, but former Daytona winner Dan Gurney's car ultimately fell victim to something else.
Rather than endanger anyone else, the drivers were going to stop.
A miscue for Jaguar. Brundle hits the fence, but it's a tiny ditch in the armor and nothing compared to the mechanical disaster for the second of the electromotive Nissan. A blown motor, they're out of the race for the 2nd year in a row. And so, with a big lead, Jaguar could focus on preserving its car. Strategy became the key. Downfield, the last hope for Nissan was last year's winning BFG team. They're a convert from Porsche.
Running flawless. I have a little problem with the throttle sticking a little bit. Other than that, the motor's running perfect. The car feels really good.
Wrong, John. Minutes later, that Nissan also retired, and the Jaguar guys, well, all of a sudden, they were literally in the driver's seat as this race wound past the midnight hour and headed on toward morning. Story of Tom Hesser. Blew the motor in practice, came from 6th to lead the race, and blew again.
That connector that vibrated and broke. So we were out there trying to fix it, and luckily I was able to do it with some burned hands and a burned forehead. I got it done.
Hesser got back in the race, but later retired as well, and that left the story of GTO. This is Jack Roush, master car owner and builder's weapon, an interesting team of drivers, and they built a huge lead as they went looking for Roush's 6th, that's right, 6th consecutive GTO victory here in Daytona.
Back with you once again, and we're with the GTU classification as car number 71 continues to motor around this 3.56-mile course, setting its own records and looking to finish first, win again for Mazda. There you see the standings in GTU classification here at the SunBank 24. It is a record crowd, and as you look up in the grandstand, you may find some empty seats. That's because for sports car racing, folks like to get down into these corners of the infield and watch the action. There's 94,000 seats here. We understand that every one of them were sold last July with the 500 coming up in a couple of weeks.
I wish I had one of them, too. I'd love to see that race.
Car number 71 continues to lead in the GTU category here in the SunBank 24. It is a 4-lap advantage by which car number 61 continues to hold the overall from his teammate, car number 60. Let's go down to Bob Marshall.
Ken, I'd like to add something to what we've talked about, endurance and the strength of these race cars. You mentioned car number 71. I don't think we've emphasized enough that the GTU leader is in a car that has won this race 4 times previously. It's owned by Amos Johnson, longtime campaigner out of North Carolina. He won 4 straight years, lost last year, and as we've already mentioned, Peter Urea and his team are looking like they're going to take it to victory this year. But they're not alone. Both of the Jaguars up front, 61 and 60, have finished first or second in this race. And in GTO, that number 15 car running so well for Jack Roush was second in this race last year and won the 12 hours of Sebring just a few hours away here in Florida. Half as long, but a lot of folks say it's twice as brutal as this race.
The car running second in that classification, GTP, these big cars you see here, that car is having some heating problems now, and it could have an effect on the outcome here, as those 2 Porsches lie in third and fourth position.
Yeah, it certainly could. The Jaguar does use an aluminum V12 motor, which of course is very, very susceptible to extreme temperatures. Should they abuse that engine just a tiny little bit, it's much more susceptible to a warping. If that happens, Porsche will smile a great deal, and we'll all cry for Jaguar, but hopefully it won't happen.
We're 17 minutes from the finish as Jaguar goes for its 6th Camel GT victory for the Tom Walkinshaw Racing Team. Back with more from Daytona shortly.
Paid by Rolex, proud sponsor of the SunBank 24 at Daytona. For over 7 decades, the Rolex Oyster has been the timepiece of champions. Proof positive of its outstanding performance and endurance. Rolex. And by True Value.
Stop rust dead in its tracks while you decorate and protect with True Test X.
Live here at the World Center of Speed, the Daytona International Speedway, and Jaguar continues to roll in first and in second. There is now a 4-lap interval between first and second as that heating problem begins to raise its head a little more seriously in that second-place car.
Well, it's going to present an interesting situation here, too, that for quite some time, the 2 Jaguars were running in very much a flight pattern, right together to make it very good for all the photographers around the track. Now they're separated by quite a distance, and do you sacrifice a little bit of a lead to get the cars together for the official photograph and across the finish line?
Yeah, they love to do it. Let's see if they're going to pull that off here today. Watching the leader, Lammers, again, is at the controls. If you're just joining us, his co-driver from Portland, New York, is one Mr. Jones. Mr. Wallace from Great Britain has assisted in the task of trying to win this race for the 2nd time in 3 years. The 2 first and a second for the Walkinshaw team here at the SunBank 24. Going for their 6th win, as we mentioned. Of those 6 wins, 4 have come with the V12 engine. V12 was used when they won it here in '88. Of course, they tried the Turbo 6 as well and picked up a couple of wins.
An interesting thing, too, about the Jaguars, I think, Ken, is that they have paid particular attention to driver comfort. And we saw Chris earlier with one of the crewmen that brings to mind a point. This race is particularly tiring for a number of reasons. But one, these cars don't fit all the drivers. You don't have the luxury of a movable seat in all of the cars. You don't have power steering like the Roush cars do, for example. So if you have to try and adapt your own body to someone else's shape, or if the pedals are a little further away than you want, it really can tire you out. And at this point of the race, you're dying for the race to get over, and you're really looking forward to that final lap. The Jaguars are very comfortable cars by comparison, and it does help them.
Here you see car 12 running in the Camel Light category, and Bob Varsha has a story on this.
Can't even at this late hour, rules are rules. And that car being run by Mexican Marlon Magana and West Coast drivers Tom Hunter, Jamie Coe, and Ron McKay did a no-no. The car was stopped on the course. Some crew members went out to help the driver fix it. That's against the rules. If you break down, only 1 driver at a time can work on the car. They didn't do that. When they were brought back, they were parked here by officials for 45 minutes. They're down 3rd in the Camel Lights class. Just a few minutes remaining.
That one here on something like that happen out there. Looks like we may be breaking the distance right at the present time as you watch car number 86. That machine is your 3rd place car in the prototype category, dusting off the number 12. Bob Wallach is at the controls of that machine in Formula 1.
Bob Wallach loves these races. This is a situation where you just can't get him out of this car.
Car number 61. Staying right on top of things out here is the machine that has been flawless since the beginning. They have led 492 laps, 1,751 of the miles run.
That's remarkable, just the consistency.
23 hours, 48 minutes have thus far been completed.
You can watch, too, as the Jaguars are going through traffic, neither driver is taking any change at all. Watch them approach the corner. You're not seeing the cars wiggle under hard braking. Everything is very delicate, very easy and flat. They're not taking any change.
Zandvoort Holland's Lammers, 4th Camel GT victory in 30 starts. If it just stays where it is now with 23 minutes, 49 seconds, having been clicked off since we began yesterday approximately 3 There's the sight down the back straightaway.
An interesting change of pace, too, for Lammers co-driver Martin Brundle. Here is a man that in Formula One racing has been used to running 10 tenths the entire duration of a race. And yet in a contest like the SunBank 24, you really can't get involved in heated racing with anybody. You have to let your ego set aside, try and drive a very intelligent race, drive at your own pace and not risk the car. So it shows that Brundle is capable, as is very obvious for years, that he is very capable of doing both of these types of racing very successfully.
There you see the number 2 car. That is the machine that currently is shown 4th overall, getting lapped another time. Rene Herzog's car unstood one of the drivers in that Porsche 962, just getting lapped across the line. Hurley Haywood is currently driving that machine. We understand there may be some big news on Hurley Haywood in the next few weeks. Let's go to Chris Economy.
They all talk about the high cost of racing. I'm in the Jaguar pit, where the 2 Jaguars out on the track now are each on their 25th set of tires of this race. You're looking at 4 sets here, $1,000 a set, a $50,000 tire bill for these 2 cars today, but it'll all be worth it to take the checkered flag first. Yeah.
Lammers, 1988 winner here. He was in the car that finished second a year ago, so his record at Daytona is pretty incredible.
It really is, and Lammers another one like Brundle. He's a fiery driver. He likes to get sideways, and he put on a spectacular display last year racing that I don't think any of the fans that witnessed it will ever forget, when he drove backwards and basically did a bootleg turn at 100-odd miles an hour. Incredible driver, but here he is. He's run a very set team. He's going to win it.
Getting down to the finish, 23 hours, 51 minutes have now been completed in the SunBank 24 at Daytona. And Jaguar trying to put it all together for a second time. See how it comes out in a matter of minutes. I think the street engines of today are more like race car engines than they ever have been.
Have been paid by the U.S. Air Force Reserve.
Our pilots fly the world's most advanced aircraft. We keep the plane in top flight condition.
International Speedway. Time trickles away. 23 hours, 54 minutes complete. Jaguar continues to run in first and second. Porsche maintaining the 3rd and 4th positions overall in this contest. Major manufacturer story being written here for the Jag. The 12-cylinders stay in front. There you see Lammers working the car number 61 in the infield portion of the course. This morning, 2 of the biggest rivals had to call it quits. As we take a look at another update, let's go to Dave to spin.
Ken, you hope to make it through the night, and if you can make it through the night, then ideally get it to the finish line. You've done so much hard work, but this car, which you remember we saw up in smoke earlier in a pit fire, did not make the finish. We put to rest the Nissan Challenge for Daytona 89 as that car went away. Jaguar's last hours were not without difficulties. This is the 61 car, an ongoing heating problem that still persists. They even talked of parking it and resting it, and the Laurels ride with number 60. They will inevitably finish 1-2 here, and it will be this car that will lead the charge to the checkered flag for the finish against Weiss.
I think you go back to 1968, since we've seen a factory finish. We saw it happen to Ferrari before that, but in 68, Porsche factory came here and lined them up 1-2-3. 1-2 currently standings. Jaguar entering 2 cars in the race.
Now, we might be watching a bit of showmanship right here, Ken. You can see there's the lead Jaguar, and right behind it is the Rene Herzog Porsche that's currently going to finish in 4th spot. He does not appear to be challenging the Jag to pass him because he wants to be in the photograph crossing the finish line. He's just going to sit there and wait. If the Jags happen to get up in team formation, watch that Porsche try and destroy their photograph.
Here's that number 71 car, the GTU classification. He's right up there with the leaders, with the big guys for just a moment. He's happy as a clam right where he is. Oh, yes. That winner will be car number 71 as time runs out on this one. There's none.
Peter giving one of his very famous Lorenzo Lama smiles.
number 2 car that's tailing around behind the Jaguar, that Porsche, the Herzog car. He's from Switzerland, and he builds boats. He'll build you a boat starting at $4 million.
I was on one of his boats for a tour a few years ago, and it was a $13 million, 140-foot boat. It's a ship, it's not a boat.
He said to me, I said, you're very fortunate you have a sponsor on your car. Yes, that's me. There you see the number 71, the GTU classification. Still in here, not knuckling under one bit. They race just as hard, just as tough for 24 hours as those gigantic prototype cars. 23:56 is the unofficial time, now complete. You see the Jags beginning to get together for one of those famed finishes. Bring it back for here, you want to stack them up and bring them across the line. That'll be the photo worldwide tomorrow. The Jaguars come down through number 60. Currently running in second place. Nielsen scooting away here. I think he wants to have his picture taken.
Now that I don't understand at all. That doesn't make any sense. I wonder if the other cars experience this.
Maybe Chris has more on it. Chris Economec.
Yes, down here in Victory Lane, it just doesn't happen when the cars roll into here. It's arranged, it's orchestrated. Larry Beluski sees to it that these trophies here are given out in the proper order. The radio and television reporters have to wait their turn. Here's a gentleman in the red coat from the city of Daytona Beach who helped orchestrate the arrangement so that a Victory Lane ceremony here at Daytona goes smoother than any other Victory Lane ceremony at an American race. It takes a lot of planning, and they're working to implement it right now, Ken.
Okay. Thanks, Chris. I guess you know who's going to be in Victory Lane to greet the winner here. Bob Archer will be there as well. We have 4 different winners to celebrate in this great race. I would say they have about a lap remaining.
Ken, there's something really strange. The second Jaguar has dropped totally out of the picture. We can't even see the Jaguar.
Here's the 61 car. He's blown off the guy and gone all the way around with the number 60 car.
I can't even, I think the other Jaguar might have fallen out. I can't see head or tail.
Here's the 61 car staying in command. Lommers. Still have Jaguar unofficially in second place. They had a 5-lap advantage, so I think they will sustain that spot. There's the 2. Here's your lead car, Lommers.
It's really strange. The one car that disappeared.
There's the second car. It is still up and still about.
He is just entering the bank here, or turn 1 is what the NASCAR people call it here.
Approximately 1 minute remaining in the 28th annual running of this 24-hour classic here in Daytona Beach, Florida. Jags 1 and 2, Porsche 962s currently running 3 and 4 as we get down to finish this one. Don Lommers, who won the 88 race, finished second here a year ago, looks like he's on his way.
And I suppose they're leaving the headlights on just to prove that Lucas Electrics don't fail all the time.
That's an old myth now.
It is. Yes,
that's all changed. Getting down, we may see a checkered flag, this time by the stripe. Directly in front of the new gigantic tower here at the Daytona International Speedway. Lead car coming down. Let's see if they'll turn one more lap on this field. There's the 60 car across, waiting on the 61 to come about. And I think that will conclude the SunBank 24 for 1990. There is the lead car, and there's the story. He's running very slowly now, and he may be trying to pick up that other car.
I would expect he is. I think this is a planned move.
He is really taking his time. He's backed it all the way down. That's about 250, not a minute 50, at which he's cavorting around the banking. If he goes much lower, he may fall off that 31-degree bank. There's the second place car down in the infield.
I don't think he's going to catch him. He still has a long way to go. We're going to have a single Jaguar crossing the start-finish line.
Checkered flag about to come out. 61 will take it home. Here is that final turn. It's been one where Larari has crashed, where Derek Bell, the 3-time winner of this event, had a terrible moment last night. But it's a glorious place right now for car number 61. Jan Lommers brings it across. Co-drivers Wallace and Jones. He'll be in victory lane along with the entire team. There you see Davy Jones and Wallace. The 3 drivers assigned to that machine that really pulled it off today. And the only blemish on their mark is they didn't get the photo taken properly when they came across the line.
Well, I'm sure their team manager will have something to say about that, but not very much after the victory is there.
We'll meet the winners of the most prestigious sports car race in the Western Hemisphere, the SunBank 24, after we pause for these messages.
4 hours is history, and Jaguar again goes to victory lane. Bingo, jackpot. We've come down here for most of the 80s trying to give away that $1,000 bonus. If you will, guys, in the truck, please wake up the producers. We have finally done it. Let's take a look at the rundown. On the True Value Leader of the Pack Award, we have the first driver in our history of our coverage to win, to lead rather, at 6 hours, 12 hours, 18, and 24 hours for Jan Lammers. $500 for each of the hourly awards, and for the first time, the extra $1,000 from the producers of this telecast. He gets $2,500 from we who were fortunate enough to come and bring you an incredible Jaguar victory here today. Now, in a moment, we'll go to victory lane, and we'll meet Jan Lammers, who had the distinction of taking that checkered flag, perhaps find out how that victory photograph got fouled up. We'll also go on to meet the winners in the other classes, because, as we said, this has been a battle in 4 different divisions here today. It has been an eventful 24 hours. The margins at the finish line closed? Well, not at all. What we have seen, very much as we saw in the Super Bowl, was magnificent, excellent performance by a racing team that is perhaps unprecedented here in the history of Daytona. Let's go to victory lane in Palm Beach.
And it is a happy Jan Lammers. A race driver works all his career for a victory in one sports car 24-hour race. Jan Lammers now has 2 in the space of 3 years. He won at Le Mans 2 years ago for Tom Walkinshaw's Jaguar team, and now in an absolutely dominating performance at Daytona, along with Davy Jones and Andy Wallace. Jan, how's that victory feel?
Fantastic. It's not only good to win this race, but it's also important who you win it with. And I think these guys have done a fantastic job, really good. We were all 3 equal pace and equal fit. It was fantastic.
And all about equal size, about 5'4", I'd say, except Jan, who's a little bit less than that. You orchestrated everything so well, but you managed to mess up the advertising shot at the end where you're supposed to be with the other car. Have you any idea what happened to the 60?
No, we were going for that, but the 60 was too close to the 86 Porsche, so we just didn't want to take a risk. One more thing you might have noticed, that the pit stops on the 61 car were just fabulous all the time. The guys did stops under 30 seconds and fast changes really quick. I mean, they did half the job and allowed us to take it easy with the traffic out there. Really good. Thanks a lot, guys.
Congratulations to Lammers, Wallace, and Jones. Right now, I'd like to call in Mr. Roland Pouton, the president of Rolex USA, along with SunBank President Jim Sproul, to make a presentation of the Rolex Cup, fast becoming the most prestigious trophy in all of motorsports. We'll do a little moving around right here. And Mr. Pouton for the presentation.
Thank you very much. We're delighted to be here in Victory Lane, and I know that's a tremendous team effort that is the retribution of what you have been performing in those 24 hours. Gentlemen of Jaguar, you can all be very, very proud, and I congratulate you. On behalf of Rolex Watch, I would like you to accept, as a token of your victory, the Rolex Cup for the victory in the SunBank 24. Congratulations, gentlemen.
Thank you very much. Now let's go back to the STP Pit Communications Center in Davis, Spain.
Here on our TBS Sports Live Auto Racing telecast, our Goodyear updates traditionally focus on racing in other parts of the world. Daytona is the racing focus today and for the next couple of weeks. And so we're going to bring you instead the look back at the other classes that were so interesting here throughout this 24 hours. The GTO class was 2 stories, one of team dominance and another of an incredible individual performance. Quickly, Robbie Gordon, the desert racer, we mentioned him earlier, came here never having driven on a road course, never having raced at night, never having driven a stick shift automobile on the street or in his career. Let's recap the GTO class from Kevin Sport.
Ford Racing Balloon Jack Rouse, Preston entered the last 5 straight GTO winners here. This year, veteran GT light driver Jim Downing moved to GTO as driver team manager for this high-tech Mazda built to challenge the Roush dominance. To fuel the rivalry, Downing hired Pete Halsmer, who won the GTO series for Roush a year ago. Yesterday, the Mazda jumped out to a healthy lead. The Roush camp approached the game of catch-up with an Iron Man philosophy. Reigning Trans Am champ Dorsey Schrader and Max Jones would go 24 hours with no third driver. First of the rivals having trouble, Schrader and Jones. had a 25-minute steering repair. The challengers from Mazda were less fortunate. The first blow, a broken windshield, which collapsed on driver John Morton. The knockout punch, however, was a blown engine. The quick-thinking Downing surmised it must have sucked some of that window glass in. Thus did the second Roush car with a 4-driver team emerge as front runner, and it ran in front for 22 straight hours, making it 6 in a row for Roush Racing.
And now let's meet the winners with Chris Economaki.
Okay, and here is that happy winner. Glenn, come on over here. Robbie Gordon. They say they found him in the desert. How do you like this asphalt racing?
Well, we had a lot of fun today. Our Whistler Lincoln Mercury just ran great all day. We had a transmission problem about 20 miles or 20 minutes from the end. And, you know, besides that, the car ran great. We didn't turn a wrench on it.
Is there some press agent stuff about you never driven a stiff shick till last month?
Well, that is true. You know, the desert truck, we run an automatic transmission, so this is the first time I drove a stick shift in a race.
We figured it up 7,000 gear shifts today for you. Let's see the palms of your hand, all right?
Oh, yeah, they're ready to go to Miami.
You miss any of them?
No.
No, well, you got some teammates out there that shared. Who shared the ride with you?
Well, Calvin Fish did an excellent job. Come on up here, Calvin.
Here's Calvin Fish. Calvin had a Charlie horse in his leg during the night. You all right? Come on, Lynn. Now you're looking at the team here. Well, Robert Lapalainen is over here somewhere, too. This is the team that won the GTO again, and they said, for time and time again. Back to you, Dave Despay.
And for the Goodyear update on the Camel Lights division, the story very much one of perseverance again, Ken Squire.
Leaders in trouble was a headline story in every class of this 24-hour contest. This Ferrari-powered Spice was out in front when it spun. The defending Daytona class champ, Tom Hessert, he was in trouble even before the green flag. His green Buick Spice blew a head gasket in morning warm-up. Quick work by the crew got the car back in the race. And last year's IMSA Camel Light champion, Scott Schubot, also had trouble early. While the foursome of John Higgins, Howard Cherry, Tim McAdam, and Charlie Monk were strong in their Porsche Fab car, the nighttime spotlight fell on Hessert's team, which clawed its way from 6th to 1st in the space of 2 hours, only to break again. And that left a quartet of New Yorkers and New Englanders up front in the fast and reliable Mazda Argo.
Great job off tonight, and now the second time ever the Jaguars won. Mark, congratulations.
And Bob Barsha, if he's not totally soaked with champagne, should be with our winners, Bob.
Absolutely, I am, although they could probably use that champagne bath right now. John Grooms, first of all, congratulations. A big win.
Thank you very much.
How was it in the car out there? There was a lot of shuffling going on in that Camel Lights class. Did you have confidence all the way?
Oh, we got ahead about 2 or 3 in the morning, and then we stayed ahead the whole rest of the race.
Frank Jelinek is the key to this team. Frank, big victory for you?
Well, the greatest sports moment I've ever had, but these guys, John and Mike, made it happen. They really did. I just drove at the end.
All right, Michael Greenfield, an open-wheel star. Is this enough to make a sports car driver out of you for a career?
I think so. I've won in these before. I like anything that goes quick.
Well, it's always great to see new drivers, young drivers get their shot, and we've got 2 real superstars here today in Daytona. Back to you, Frank.
And Mike Greenfield is a name you're going to hear a lot more of in time to come as well. 761 laps, 2,709 miles covered. That's a new record for Jan Lammers here at the SunBank 24. Martin Brundle was at the controls when that second Jag came through. Bob Wallach takes the 962 into 3rd. Taking a look further down the standings, you see a GTO car coming through in the 7th position, 8th position, and 10th position in the overall standings from those 52 cars that actually came to the green for yesterday's start. And we'll be back with more of the SunBank 24. Give you a chance to meet some more of the winners here at Daytona Beach, Florida. This great annual classic in a moment.
Next, let's all go to the hoop as Atlanta collides with Denver live, followed by the power and the glory that is NWA Main Event, next on PBS.
I like cruising downtown in my limousine, big skyscrapers and the nightlife scene, rush hour traffic, we get around here. High fashion ladies.
BF Goodrich TA tires. For over 20 years, people have been putting BF Goodrich TA tires on their cars and trucks. And by Tropical Winds Resort, one of Daytona's newest and finest hotels on the beach. and by the U.S. Air Force Reserve.
Our pilots fly the world's most advanced aircraft. We keep the planes in top flight condition.
It is only a day in the life of World Motorsports, but what a day it is. It began yesterday in much the same conditions as today, sunny skies with thousands of people jammed into this speedway. They all came to follow the quest to victory lane. And now at the end of that long and grueling 24 hours, this race is history, and it is capped with truly an historic performance. Not only in the GTP class, where Jaguar has simply rewritten the record book. They so totally dominated this event that it is a performance that may well stand for many years to come. But there was another outstanding performance, not only by drivers, but also by a car with a bit of history. In this Goodyear update, let's recap what happened in GTU. Ken Squire and the story of the little car that could.
Famous Amos Johnson became famous by winning more of these 24 hours than any other driver. And this has been his best weapon, the GTU class Mazda number 71, the little car that could. This year, Car 71's pilots are the less famous Peter Urea, Bob Dotson, Jim Pace, and Rusty Scott. They leased this car from Amos Johnson, who moved up to GTO. Early on, the little car that could ran a comfortable pace. The two-car team, called Full-Time Racing, chased the spotlight. They raced each other, they raced the guys in other classes, and eventually, they raced themselves right out of contention. Amos's old teammate, Roger Mandeville, became the dominant car in the first half of the race. But the little car that could kept coming, and eventually it took the lead. And its lead got bigger and bigger and bigger. And eventually the little car that could drove all the way to victory lane.
And in that victory lane, standing by with the happy winners, is Chris Economaki.
Well, perhaps the team that's a victory today means the most to are these gentlemen in Grand Touring under 3 liters. Peter Urea and his co-drivers, Bob Dotson, Rusty Scott, and Bill Pace. They're not professional drivers. They're excellent drivers, but they're not pros. You got to rent a car. Did you get the weekend rate?
Yes, I did. I'll do it again in a minute.
Well, tell me a little bit about the team. You guys didn't get together until this race, did you?
Yes, that's correct. My old team from the Porsche days got together with some of the people from Team Highball and decided to use this car to come back and try to win another victory for it.
Why do you have 3 co-drivers?
Well, because, financially I need them, and because they're great people and you make a good team.
And what you're saying in so many words is these drivers had to pay to be part of the team to pay the expenses, right?
Well, they share on the expenses, and they also share on the victory. So it's a business proposition for all of us.
Sarah, you had tears of joy in your eyes. What's this mean to you?
Well, he's happy, so that makes me happy.
Hey, Jim, you gave up a medical career to do this, right?
Right, that's right. And here I am instead of being in the hospital, all right.
You're going to go back to a printing business, right, Rusty?
Right.
Counterfeit money?
No, we need all we can get.
How about you, Bob? You seem to be you're a Barber Saab graduate, open wheel cars. Now you've won at Daytona. What's this going to mean for your racing career?
Well, this is my first endurance race, and this went pretty well, so I guess we'll do Sebring. It seems to be all right.
But you don't mind paying the race?
Well, I don't think it's going to come out that way. I think we're going to do okay on this deal.
Now, what is this going to mean, Peter, from a sponsorship standpoint? Mazda had a $1 million effort at 4 other cars, and you were the one that brought home a class victory. The factory cars couldn't quite do that. You're going to sit down with them and sort of hopefully strike a deal for some financial support for your continuing racing activity?
Well, they have a very, very good contingency program for the independent Mazda drivers, so I'm very happy with that, and if I could keep them winning, I'll make a lot of money.
Tell me this, if this was back in your native Havana, what would the paper say tomorrow morning?
Oh, my God. Tracy Cuban won the race.
Okay, there you have the happy winners of Grand Touring Under. Back to you, Ken.
One of the great things is you get 4 winners, not just 1, when you come to the SunBank Group.
But Peter's happy enough to share that enthusiasm with them all. It's great.
We have a new record for the 24. The old record was in 1987 at 111 miles per hour. The new mark for Jag, 112.857. And that distance covered again was a new record as well, some 2,700 miles. and the leading Jag led 500 laps before they got this thing completed. We'll be back with more of the highlights of the SunBank 24 in just a moment. Stay with us here at Daytona Beach, where the action has been the 28th annual running of the largest sports car race in the Western Hemisphere. Station today. Coming up next, the Atlanta Hawks and Denver Broncos. But here today, we had a meeting of a couple of giant teams, the Porsche and the Jaguar, and coming out this time it was Jag, and those turbo cars just had their problems throughout the 24-hour contest.
Well, they did have problems, but I think part of that is just the incredible work and detailed preparation that Jaguar has gone to coming into this race. They have had unbelievable amounts of practice to make sure that they have solid race cars, and it's showing. They both finished very well.
Remarkable pit stops throughout the event. 6 win for the Tom Walkinshaw team over here in the United States, and of course they go back to racing Group C as well. They did an outstanding job from top to bottom, and it was all through the night, those flawless stops. This morning they had some heating problems, and they seemed to treat them as if they practiced for them.
I'm sure they have. I think in a race like this, you have to expect the unexpected. So you create problems. You imagine the worst possible thing could happen and say, well, what can I do in this situation? Jaguar looked at that, found the remedies, and they deserve to win.
And Chris Economaki has found the story of the man behind the whole picture here on Jaguar. Let's join him now.
I'm with Sir John Egan, the chairman of Jaguar, who's come over here from England to cheer his team on to victory. You've become quite a fan, but I noticed, John, that you had a fire suit on. Now, in this country, when the boss comes, they figure, what can we do to get him out of the way? I see they put you in a fire suit. What were you doing?
Well, the only way they'd allow me into the pits was with a fire suit on. So that's maybe the best way to clear the pits free of passengers is to actually make them all put a fire suit on.
Well, you had a great day, we know that. But did you have any frights during the course of the 24 hours?
Well, I thought it had all gone too well. I mean, everything went according to us. All of our opposition disappeared in front of us. But about 9 or 10 o'clock, we saw number 86 coming up on us, and we were starting to have a few rather small niggling problems that we were beginning to get worried about.
The fact that the engines in these cars had their beginnings in your production cars make you feel good?
I believe that's part of the heritage of the companies. We've always had the engines in our cars that can go into racing cars.
Now, what about the future for Jaguar now that you've got the Ford involvement?
I believe it's very positive. I think that we've got a lot of good friends in Ford. They're a world-class company. They are very resourceful, and I think they're going to help us do a better job.
Well, congratulations and continued good luck, Sir John. Back to you.
Let's take a look right now at our scrapbook on the 1990 running of the SunBank 24 here at Daytona. It's almost deja vu. Takes us right back to the 50s and those amazing Jags, those D-types at Le Mans when they won 5 times in 1 year. Took 5 out of 6 positions before this era was over. There is a new era beginning, and it is a Jaguar era for sure in IMSA Camel racing. It's going to be a great season. We'll have more of the story here from Daytona in a moment.
Daytona, where the 24 hours is history, and it is traditional for us to get all of our reporters' opinions now on what we've seen during this long and eventful day. From my viewpoint, the reemergence of Jaguar, dominant in the 50s, has truly the power in international endurance racing, and perhaps as Camel GT champion. Make it official, Porsche can't win endurance races anymore without a new car. Whether they'll get one or not remains to be seen. Turbos seem to be on the wane. The emerging power also of the Japanese teams. They are very strong. They show increasing interest in this series. Nissan blew up for the 2nd year in a row, but they'll break that string eventually. The man who has covered more of these than anybody else on our crew is Chris Economaki. Let's get his thoughts. Chris?
Well, I'm excited about what's happening to endurance racing. Many years ago, when we went to Le Mans 1950, the American drivers didn't want to go. They said it wasn't a race. It was babysitting a car to make it last for 24 hours. And as the years have gone by, the tempo has been stepped up. You really must be a racing driver to win, and you have to have a racing car. It's not an endurance race. It's a long 24-hour sprint, and that's racing. And I'm going to leave this track happy today.
And more, I think you're going to see that places tremendous demands on those who build these cars. To run the kind of pace that Jaguar did today is a tremendous mechanical effort. Bob Barsha, our expert on international racing affairs, your views on this 24-hour.
Well, that's exactly my point, Dave. International affairs. The 24 hours of Le Mans, as we've mentioned in this show, is in some trouble. There's a lot of political squabbling going on, and that gives the 24 hours of Daytona a great window of opportunity to ascend in international prestige. It used to be that way when the Italian Ferrari team and the German Porsche team came here as factories to run. Jaguar has upped the ante. They are here as a factory. They've proven you can be very successful both athletically and commercially by winning here at Daytona. If Le Mans continues to be eclipsed by Daytona, it can only mean better things for this great racetrack in the future.
And, of course, voices that have to work 24 hours are a little like race cars that have to work 24 hours, Bob. They get a little strained there toward the end. In the end, Jaguar and Ford, an interesting marriage, an interesting matchup of technologies from both sides of the Atlantic, and what that might hold for the 90s is going to be a very interesting part of the story of Camel GT racing. The guys who had the best view in the house, Ken Squire, Bill Adam, what was it all about up top?
Well, it's going right back to the beginning here of sports car racing coming to this country. 1949, the old XK120s, and you're an old Jaguar driver.
I don't remember them that old, Ken, but yeah, my heart is still with the Jaguars, obviously, because I had a lot of good years with them, and you can't get away from your roots. I'm very pleased for them, but something else, not to be overshadowed, I think, Dave, you alluded earlier to Super Bowl, and let's go to the 49ers particularly. If there was one team coming in here that you could depend on being like the San Francisco 49ers, it was Roush Racing. What a phenomenal record they have, and again, they have shown they are the team to beat in GTO. Mazda have a great new car, but they've got a long way to go before they knock off Jack Roush.
And we'll see you at the Pontiac Excitement 400 here on TBS. It's coming up on Sunday, February the 25th. Hope you'll be with us to enjoy it. For Dave Despain, Chris Economaki, Bill Adam, Mike Joy, Bob Barsha, I'm Ken Squire with the SunBank 24 at Daytona.
The SunBank 24 at Daytona has been brought to you by SunBank, where 1 out of every 5 Florida families have discovered peace of mind banking only at SunBank. And by Coors Light. There's no slowing down the silver bullet, the best light beer for a good long time. And by Goodyear Eagle Tires. Goodyear, because there really is a difference.